In 1914, a war swept across Europe that would be more vast and destructive than any other. Young volunteers who expected to be home by Christmas would find themselves in mud and rat-filled trenches for the better part of 4 years. As the first of the wounded returned home for care, a new disease would appear, one of the mind. Nicknamed shell shock, this disorder had a rapid onset and often occurred in soldiers soon after they were exposed to grenade blasts, hence the nickname. The soldiers presented with symptoms of fear and despair, sometimes refusing to even leave their beds. At first, the generals believed this was cowardice, and over 300 British soldiers were executed for defecting. But as the war raged on, their view changed, and in 1918, 65,000 soldiers were suffering from shell shock. The government of Britain knew their ideas had to change. A royal commission was assembled to address this new disease and to define cowardice in a military sense anew. The commission included doctors, psychologists, and military officers, among with others. The problem was not as simple as we see it today. In England, there was a general thought that people could be trained to be strong mentally and physically. In military style school system, and throughout the public sphere, English people firmly believed in the keep calm and carry on ethos. It was also a belief at the time that there was a strong line dividing the insane and the well. There was no such thing as having a bad spell. Once a person was declared insane, even if they managed to recover in the medieval asylum system, they would never escape the social stigma. It was assumed at first that this shell shock was either cowardice or malingering, that soldiers were faking the symptoms to escape the front lines. It was also thought that only privates, taken from the general population and therefore unfit for battle, were exhibiting the disease. These assumptions would be proved to be wrong. Freud, on the other hand, believed that shell shock was a real and treatable disorder of the mind. He encouraged doctors to explore the trauma that had caused the disorder in order to encourage the affected to face their subconscious fears. The English doctors were unwilling to acknowledge Freud or follow his psychoanalytic treatment, mainly because it was too time-consuming, but they stopped treating soldiers as defectors and submitting them to painful electric shock treatments. Doctors found that talking through soldiers' trauma relieved the symptoms of shell shock and helped the soldiers become mentally prepared to return to battle. The most persuasive testimony came from a man who was a highly respected British officer. He was of high economic status and therefore schooled in the proper military school system, and had fought bravely in 3 battles at Ypres, only to have most of his unit destroyed around him. One day, upon seeing the war horses of his slaughtered comrades, he broke down and was unable to leave his dugout for the entire week. He convinced the commission that in the horrors of World War I, even the strongest in society could be broken. The acceptance of this fact would begin to affect thinking of the entire society. The idea that in extreme circumstances, even the strongest mind could break, would blur the lines dividing the sane and the infirm. While social stigma remains even today, it was finally beginning to be tolerable for a person to seek out help in times of distress. The world of clinical psychology would never be the same.